nobody saw. The one nobody saw. I don't know where to begin, so I'll just write down everything I remember. This happened last summer, and since then, I haven't felt peaceful for a single second. My name is Max, I'm 27, and I work as a courier in a small town in the northeastern USA. All I wanted was to earn some money, buy an apartment, and stop living with my parents. One evening, I got a delivery assignment to a part of town I'd never seen before. The address looked strange. No streets, just old house numbers, as if someone was trying to hide this place from everyone. I thought it was a private estate and rode there on my moped. When I arrived, I saw an old house that looked long abandoned. The windows were boarded up and the door was half open. In the darkness near the entrance stood a figure I at first took for a man in a black coat. "Are you Max?" I heard a quiet voice. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if the voice was addressing me. "The doors will be open for half an hour. Take this," the figure said, handing me a package. I took it and was about to leave when suddenly I heard the door slam behind me. "Wait!" The voice grew muffled and turned into a rustling sound. I looked around, but no one was there. My heart was pounding faster. I put the package in my bag and quickly left. At home, I opened the package. Inside was an old torn book and a note that read, "He sees you even when you don't want him to." I thought it was some kind of joke. The next night I woke up to a rustling sound in my room. The lights were off, but I felt someone standing by my bed. I didn't dare open my eyes. The rustling turned into soft breathing. In the morning, I couldn't find the book. It had disappeared even though I was sure I left it on the table. Days passed and strange things became normal. I saw shadows moving in the mirror, heard voices whispering my name, and strange messages appeared on my phone. No text, only symbols. I started researching the house and the book, but found only old legends about a creature no one had ever seen but who lived among us, feeding on fear and controlling those it chose. My friends said I was going crazy, but I knew the truth. One evening while coming home, I saw the figure in the black coat standing at the intersection, staring right at me. Since then, I couldn't sleep or work. He was always near, even when I didn't see him. I'm writing this because I'm afraid he will come for me forever. Not long after I saw the figure in the black coat at the intersection, my life turned into a nightmare. Every night I woke up feeling a presence. At first I thought it was just stress, my eyes and imagination playing tricks on me. But what started was no fantasy. I remember waking up at 3:13 a.m. The room was dark, but I felt someone sitting at the edge of my bed. My heart was pounding so loud I feared neighbors might hear it. I mustered all my strength to move, and then heard a whisper. "Max, you can't escape me." The voice was cold, emotionless, almost mechanical. I closed my eyes, trying not to scream. When I opened them, no one was there, but the pillow where he sat had an imprint. Days got harder. I avoided mirrors, windows, even my phone. Every time I looked in a reflection, I saw not myself, but a shadow in a black coat standing behind me. Research led me to the Old Town Library, where I found notes about the invisible. That was the name of the creature that never appeared in human form, but influenced the world around, feeding on fear. Its main ability was to become who people least expected and trap them. To stop the invisible, the notes mentioned an ancient amulet that could banish it forever. The legend said the amulet was hidden in the same house where I received the package. I realized I had to go back there. The next day I took a flashlight and my moped keys and headed outside town to that creepy house. This time I was ready for anything. When I got there, I entered the room where I had once received the package. Under the floor, I found a secret compartment. Inside was an amulet shaped like a black stone framed with silver. I took it in my hands and a cold wind swept through the room. Suddenly the door slammed shut and I heard a whisper. "You think this will help? This is only the beginning." Then the real hunt began. The invisible started to chase me everywhere, in dreams and reality. I saw him in reflections, felt his breath on my neck. He fed on my fear, but the amulet gave me protection. When I held it, the shadow retreated and the voice weakened. Weeks passed and I understood I had a choice: keep fighting or give up. One night, sitting in a dark room, I heard a final whisper. "You will never see the dawn." But I held the amulet and repeated to myself, "I am not afraid. The next night was the darkest of my life. It seemed like the darkness itself waited to strike the final blow. I sat on the floor, holding the amulet tightly, my eyes fixed on the door. At 3:13 a.m., the exact time it all started, the door suddenly creaked open. Into the room flew the shadow, the invisible. He looked different from reflections and dreams, a huge blurred silhouette with burning eyes carrying coldness and emptiness. He spoke in a voice like 1,000 whispers at once. "You will never defeat me, Max. I am your fear. You are my food." I raised the amulet and it began glowing with a cold blue light. The shadow retreated, screeching in a silent scream, and the air filled with tension. "This is the end," I whispered, repeating words I read in those old notes. Then it began. The power of the amulet grew. It tore through the darkness, pushing it out of the room. The invisible tried to hide, but I pressed on, not letting him escape. And in the last moment, when it seemed he would vanish forever, he whispered, "You won today, but I will always be part of you," and vanished. I greeted the morning on my knees, amulet in hand and a deep sense of peace. The invisible did not return. Though his voice still echoes in distant corners of my mind, I know I won this battle. And if you ever receive a package with a strange book and an amulet, beware. The one nobody saw may come for you. After that terrifying night, something inside me changed. The invisible was no longer just a distant threat. It was a shadow tethered to my very soul. The amulet's power kept it at bay, but I could feel it lurking, waiting for any crack in my resolve. Days turned into restless nights. The air around me grew heavy with silence, broken only by the faintest whispers I could barely hear. Sometimes, when I glanced at my reflection, I swore I saw the faint outline of the shadow just behind me, always watching, always waiting. One evening, I received a text message from an unknown number. It simply read, "You cannot run forever." Panic gripped me like never before. I realized this was no ordinary creature. It was intelligent, cunning, and patient. It was learning, adapting. I decided to seek help. I contacted an old professor of folklore and the occult from my college days, Dr. Evelyn Shaw. She listened carefully as I recounted my story, her eyes darkening with concern. "This entity you describe, it's a classic example of a fear spirit," she explained. "It feeds on your terror and desperation. The amulet you found is a rare artifact that can suppress its influence, but only temporarily. To truly banish it, you need to confront the source of your fear directly." She suggested a ritual at the old house, at midnight, under a full moon. It was risky, but possibly my only chance. The night of the ritual, I felt the oppressive weight of the invisible pressing down harder than ever. I arrived at the house, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Dr. Shaw began the incantation, her voice steady, weaving ancient words into the cold night air. Suddenly, the shadows in the room deepened and coalesced, forming the massive silhouette once more. The invisible lunged towards me, but I held up the amulet. The room erupted in a whirlwind of darkness and light, the air crackling with energy. I felt a piercing cold, then a surge of warmth as the shadow screamed and began to dissipate. With one final haunting whisper, "We will meet again," it vanished, leaving behind a silence so profound it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. I collapsed to the floor, exhausted but free. The days that followed were peaceful. The whispers ceased and the weight lifted. But deep inside, I knew that some part of that darkness would always linger, a reminder that fear is a living thing, and sometimes it watches from the shadows, waiting for its moment.